welcome to the podcast, Erwan Le Corre, founder of MovNat and the owner of a 7-minute, 29-second breath hold. I have questions about the breath holding in particular because it's a field of interest for myself, but I'm also interested in the life that you've led up until this point in time. And a big chunk of what you're known for publicly is MovNat. How would you describe MovNat for people? A lot of my listeners are from traditional sport backgrounds, so it's based on metrics and performance, and MovNat sits apart from that. So how would you describe it?
So MovNat has been sitting apart from that intentionally in the last 15 years, but we're about to release a huge shift in the direction of performance in what we call real world fitness, which is in fact physical capability, and capabilities made not just of capacity, but also of competency. So you got the movement skills, you've got the capacity, all the physiological adaptations, the conditioning, strength and conditioning. You bring the two together, you have physical capability. So you're capable across a vast range of contextual demands. What does that mean? It means your physical capability is going to apply to a variety of environments and a variety of situations. Because when you need to perform in the real world, and you can ask any LEO, firefighter, special operator, it's always about what's the situation, where are you, what are all the variables? Yes. So you need to adapt to that. But to tactically adapt to that, it is a mind thing, but it's also not just a mental response. It's also a physical response. It's how you're going to operate your body in that context. And can you be actually capable, competent, but also fast, agile, adaptable, all of that. Okay, so what's MovNat?
Yeah.
What are we physically designed to do by design? When we're born, what is it that everybody starts doing? We start to crawl.
Sure.
Stand up. We start to walk, then run, balance. Everything is a lot of balancing act when you're a little baby, little kid. And that instinct is there already before any fitness instruction. Why? Well, because you're just like any other member of any other animal species. If you were a baby dolphin, you'd better start swimming. If you were a baby eagle, you'd better start flying at some point. If you're a baby lion, you'd better behave like a lion. And same with elephants, and same with horses, and same with every single young member of any animal species. So basically, natural movement is not just, because MovNat is natural movement, okay? It's the process of developing the full range of those natural movement abilities that you were born with. So we're talking about inhuman beings, of course, because human beings don't have flying in their natural movement.
Yeah.
We don't have like reptation, like a slithering, like a snake. We could try to reproduce that, but it's not really, it's pointless. However, we have a full range of skills. We can move on all fours, we can balance, we can crawl, we can manipulate objects, lift them, carry them, throw them, catch them, we can climb, we can run, we can jump and land, etc., etc. Why do we have such a variety of innate abilities? Because they're all necessary for our survival in a natural environment. And even in unnatural environment, we still need those skills. Ask a firefighter. I don't need to learn yoga or ping pong, but they certainly need to be able to rush, climb, maybe jump, balance, and then lift somebody, carry somebody, throw equipment, catch equipment, all those. Those skills are potentially vital. All right? That's why we have that program that's innate in us.
You'd mentioned that it is innate, just like it is innate for an eagle to fly, and for in the animal world, everyone's endowed with these attributes. But the difference is that those animals don't really need to be taught, whereas it seems like humans do. Is it because we're making our world less and less natural? Is that the reason that MovNat
Yeah,
and your workshops, and that we need to be taught these things?
it's an excellent question, an excellent point that you're making, Sam. What differentiates us from the way this is transmitted, human beings to the young ones compared to in other species? They do it all through mimicry, since they do not have verbal instruction. So it's all by just follow the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, follow me, and do what mommy does or do what daddy does. That's it. Um, it's just visual. Basically, it's visual cues, visual coaching, behavioral. The parent is going to show through their physical behavior, oh, don't do that, or do that. There's going to be a positive or negative reinforcement supporting the acquisition of those skills, movement skills, and of that conditioning, so that those young animals end up being physically capable for the real world. Again, they're capable because they have a competency, the movement, and they have the capacity, the stamina, the speed, the endurance, all of that. What about us? We need exactly the same real world physical capability, which I simply call real world fitness. It's just a different definition of fitness than a conventional definition of fitness. And in order to develop that, it could be done by mimicry. The problem is that most parents don't move.
Yeah.
So they fail their little ones at being a physical example, at leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they do, but unconsciously in the proper way, which means that the physical example that they show to their youngsters is basically sit on your butt all day
Might look a bit
and
like this just on the phone, you know.
make it look like it's an effort to just move from the couch to the kitchen or something. All indoors, no intensity, no frequency of movement, no intensity of movement, no variability of movement, no adaptability of movement. It's a very it's a movement poor behavior. So a movement poor environment as well. So the behavior and the environment. What are kids going to try to do? They're going to not accept the movement poverty. They're going to try to do as many movements as they can, enrich their movement in the same environment. So let's say indoors at home, kids are not supposed to move much. It's whatever, you don't want them to break things or to disrupt the quietness, whatever it is. But they don't care because it's their instinct. They're compelled to move. So they're going to vault over the couch. They're going to crawl under the table. They're going to hang from whatever they can hang. They're going to climb up the stairs and climb down the stairs. They're going to toss things around. And if they have siblings, it's going to get even more wild. Why? Because they don't want to ask permission to enable that innate drive. They don't care. They just want to live it. They want to experience it. It's a demand from the memory in their DNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's a grow and to become capable. Nobody wants to grow inept, not able to move, or in a way that is performing, way that's strong, capable. Okay, so movement, poor behavior from the parents, but they don't care because the movement poor environment that is the home will still be utilized to nonetheless provide a bunch of variety in terms of movement. Does that make sense?
Oh, not only does it make sense, is just something I see in our house because we have a 3-year-old and a baby who's just started to crawl in the last month or so. And we both added in opportunities for them to move. So, for example, for my son, we have these medicine balls that he can pick up and carry around our living room and kitchen, and climbing frames, stuff like that. And they've both got the inclination to move, but they also, especially my son, he's almost vibrating with energy that he has to express with his body. If he's sitting still, he's moving.
Of course, that's exactly what he should be doing.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's absolutely healthy and natural. Only us adults, well, most of us, don't understand how precious that behavior, that instinct, that drive, whatever we want to call it, how powerful and how important it is. Okay, so now we understand that, okay, the environments are not in favor, our artificial environment don't really favor that frequency and variety and intensity of movement. Most parental example also does not support that vibrant, frequent, varied repertoire
Mm-hmm.
of natural. If you look at adults, all they do is what? Stand, stand up, stand, sit down, just sit for long periods of time, then stand back up, walk a few steps, typically to the next seat.
Yep.
So a seat in the living room, to a seat in the kitchen, to a seat in the car, to a seat even at the gym um, when they exercise. So it's incredible that despite that really poor visual example, kids still have in them the instinct that, oh no, oh, I'm going to crawl, I'm going to climb, I'm going to vault, I'm going to jump, I'm going to toss things around, I'm going to yell, I'm going to be primal, I'm going to explore. And fortunately, because otherwise, man, we would already be living in a Wall-E kind of reality, the
Mm-hmm.
movie. Alrighty, so why is it, because then I'm circling back to your question, why is it that humans need to learn natural movement? Isn't it natural after all? All right, so yes, to a degree, it's natural. It means if I ask anyone, anywhere in the world, any gender, any ethnicity, whatever, any social background, hey, can you jump and land? They're going to say, first off, they're not going to ask you jumping and landing. What is that? But if you ask them, hey, can you do yoga? If you've never heard about yoga, they're like, yo, what? What are you talking
Mm-hmm.
about? Okay. But if you tell them about those natural movements, they're gonna say, yeah, I can do it. Or maybe they'll say, I can't do it, but because they're thinking, I cannot do like a big jump. But if you ask them, wait a minute, can you just jump from here to there 3 inches forward? They're like, yeah, this I can do. Okay, so you see, you can jump. Those movement patterns are truly universal. They're truly because they're truly vital, and they're truly there's a whole foundation that's completely instinctive. But but for instance, so is the ability to fight,
Mm-hmm.
and that's innate. Anybody can have the instinct of kicking someone, punching someone, try to grab somebody, or try to defend oneself from someone. Those are patterns of an innate foundation that's universal. But what makes the difference between somebody who will just do whatever trying to defend themselves and a martial artist that is specially trained to do that skillfully?
Well, there's both technique and the ability to execute under pressure.
So they have turned basic natural abilities, natural movement abilities, into efficient skills. How? Does that happen naturally in everyone? Absolutely not. It takes some time. It takes some effort. It takes some work. And it takes what else? Some instruction. Means you need somebody to teach you. So what are those techniques? Techniques are patterns that you can understand, apply, and replicate to perform physically as efficiently as possible. That's what a technique is. It's learnable, it's teachable. And that's not just for martial arts, because martial arts basically is the methodical practice of the original natural movement, which is either kicking, punching, grappling, biting, whatever it is that needs to be done.
Sure.
All right. It's just the technical process, the method required to acquire high level of performance through technical mastery. If that can be done for fighting, which is a natural movement, and inside that domain, fighting domain, combative, you have, again, kicking, grappling, punching, parrying, you have, wrestling, you have all of that within that domain of combative. So combative is a natural movement domain. Kicking is a natural movement ability. Kicking skillfully, like what you learn in kickboxing, Thai boxing, karate, you name it, that turns that natural movement ability into a skill.
Mm-hmm.
From a primary nature, you turn it into a second nature that is an improved version of the original foundation. Once you understand that, then ask yourself, why is it that I could not apply that same principle to running, to jumping and landing, to hanging and climbing, to vaulting and jumping and landing? I probably said that already. To balancing, to lifting, to carrying. If you take just lifting, that's one of those manipulative natural movements, lifting. How do you lift? Well, you can lift without knowledge, rounded back, horrible form, trying to pull your arms. But then you can learn very efficient lifting techniques. Once you understand that concept, and you just think, okay, how about a method that would just be based on that approach of making the instinctual to become very efficient through technicality? So let's turn that into a method. And what can we apply it to? Very simple, to the whole range of our universal natural movement abilities. Turn each of those abilities into skills. And this, my friend, is MovNat. This is what MovNat teaches. It's the martial art method or system of the whole scope of natural movement. Once you understand that, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I've been running my whole life, but then never really scratched my head and be like, is there a way to do that more technically and more efficiently? Remember what Bruce Lee said. At first, it's just a kick, or maybe he said a punch. Then it's more than a kick and more than a punch. Then, ultimately, it's just a kick and just a punch. What did he mean by that? He meant, at first, you are unconscious about your inefficiency. You may kick a punch, but you don't even realize that it sucks. It's like a shitty performance. It's whatever, no technique. Then you start to realize, oh, I'm inefficient. So you become conscious about your inefficiencies. Very important step. Oh, it's actually not good. Before you didn't even know. Now you know. Okay, so now that you're informed, what do you do with that information? Do you just be like, oh, okay, well, I suck? Or do you do something about it? It depends on your mentality. It depends on your mindset. Do you want to acquire those capabilities? If you don't, then it doesn't matter. Go back to your couch. But if you do, then you get to work. Now, work is not just work like grinding. It's also work smart. What is working smart? Working with technique. So now you're like, oh, I'm conscious of my inefficiency. I'm going to work on it. Now you're working on it. And what does it become? Conscious competency. You finally start to improve and become more efficient, but you have to put a lot of effort in it. You have to be very conscious about it. Ultimately, through practice, it does become truly second nature.
Yeah, from unconscious to super conscious to unconscious again.
Ultimately, you don't have to think about it to instantly, spontaneously, reflexively be very efficient. That's what a black belt is supposed to represent. That's what a master is supposed to represent, is that ability to perform at high level under pressure anytime, just like that. So you need to refine your movement patterns, which takes a lot of mindful repetition, a lot of commitment. That's the whole point of a practice. So MovNat is the practice of the full range of natural movements that are, of course, humans, because we cannot fly. We cannot really dive deep like a whale or a dolphin. This being said, we're very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Try to find a dolphin that would climb a tree.
Yeah. Or any animal can really lift much of anything.
Yes, well, yes, some like a puma can do that, but they can like literally pull and lift through the mouth their prey up a tree just to be.
That's true.
That's rare though. Most animals, you're right. Ask a penguin to lift anything, and that's going to be challenging. Okay, so you don't find a dolphin climbing trees because it's not a domain that is available to their natural movement, dolphin natural movement. Ask an eagle to throw or catch something. Not going to happen. Ask them to run the way we do. Not going to happen. They're going to take off and fly, but not run. Ask an elephant to dive deep in the ocean. Not going to happen. Ask a whale to run. Can't run. I mean, it's like a duh thing, but when you think about it, it really shows that each species have their own scope of natural movement. Humans too. There can be an overlap. Some of our natural movement abilities belong to, for instance, a monkey can do some of that, a lion can do some of that, etc. But we are much more versatile than most animals. If you really pay attention to it, it's incredible how humans are versatile, much more versatile than most animals. So again, back to what's the transmission process. In animal, the transmission is mostly visual and behavioral. So follow the leader type of teaching. Look at mama and do what she does. Follow her. Maybe Papa will also show you a few things. What about human beings? There's no transmission at all, typically, unless your parents are natural movers or MovNatters and they take their kids to even to the playground. But
that second part is important because it seems as though there might be even a lot of parents that exercise or train, but it's something they do separate from their kids. So even if they are engaged in movement, be it natural or otherwise, it's something that they do apart, so that transmission is lost.
You basically bring your kids to the playground and you say, hey, go play, don't bother me because I'm on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm on TikTok, whatever it is. I'm on Netflix. So just go play. No, I'm not playing with you. No, I'm not moving with you. See, the example is a complete indifference or literally a rejection of natural movement. All the time. It's never the right place. It's never the right time. And when finally it's the right place at the right time because you're at the playground, it's not even something, not always, of course, because you have some great parents out there, but often you see parents that don't even care, don't encourage, don't participate. which is to me a parental failure. You're not there, you're not present with your children, you're not showing by example. You should show them that, hey, you can hang too, you can climb, you can run, you can hide, you can crawl on all fours, you can do all these things. Those are natural things to do. Then like the kids unconsciously are like, oh wow, I have permission to do that because my dad and my mom do that with me. So it's natural. But when the reinforcement is always negative, like, oh, not the right place, not the right time, too dangerous, too dirty, whatever, don't make too much noise, too noisy, too disruptive. Ultimately, at some point, children they are disheartened.
Yeah.
Stop. They're like, what's the point? Every time I try, I'm told, no, we can't. No, 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 right? It's disheartening. So ultimately, they get the message, which is, you know what? This is worthless. Stop doing it. So that one day, years later, you can be introduced finally to the right way of exercising. How about you do that biceps curls perfectly? How you do those like analytical and then anatomically perfect exercises, and all the naturalness is completely absent from it, is gone. So it's boring, it's repetitive, it's robotic, it's not adaptable.
And that's
It's very
often the better case scenario than those kids not find. I mean, that would be better than nothing, but not nearly as good as what it could be.
exactly. So MovNat is the only system out there that truly look at fitness through that lens. Real world fitness means it's a simpler way of talking about physical capability that applies to the world outside, the real world, not in the gym,
Yep.
not necessarily in a sports setting, but to any situation or almost any situation, almost any environment that you find in the real world, in the real life, right? And we are a system, means we methodically um, teach people how to become increasingly efficient and effective with those movements. So there's a learning curve. We teach techniques, we teach movement principles, then we have progressions. So to keep it safe and to keep also the learning curve efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the process of learning that has to be as efficient as possible. And I have a last information for you, because that was a bit of your introduction, which is what sets that apart is that we don't do measurements and stuff like that. It's partly true and partly not. So let me explain. For many years, we've been focusing on mostly teaching techniques. Why? Because that's what most, and so we have not really reinforced, okay, do you have measurable goals? Are you measuring your progress and are you measuring your performance? Means uh, lifting like weight, height, depth, length, velocity, um,
Duration.
all of that, duration, exactly, volume, intensity, complexity. Okay, so for instance, it can be also measured that, oh, okay, you're able to perform that balancing technique on a whiteboard. Now you can do it on a super like smaller board. Okay, it's a form of measurement because the environment has changed. Therefore, the application of a technique is harder. So it means you've made progress. Anyways, so where is all that for MovNat? Well, that's the next shift. We are shifting MovNat to a new direction that I've named MovNat 2.0, as if it was a little of an app, because when you think about it, an app is a system
Mm-hmm.
with applications. You want to find applications through that application. Because an application is like, okay, what do you apply this application to? Okay, so what is a method? Well, it's the same. It's an application. It's a system to get a certain result. So that system can improve, can evolve, and can be updated. So that's what me and my team are working on at the moment. And the reason why it never was like a sport or even a competition or anything like that, it's because we had that ethos of cooperation and feel and observe more than you try to be overly
Hmm.
rational. Because that's really what's been missing from the fitness industry for so long and still is. This being said, a lot of people just expect more that thing put in a box, like more format, more standards, and also more ability to compare themselves to others, not necessarily out of competition, but just to reassure themselves, but okay, where am I? Am I just really a beginner? Am I more advanced? Am I making progress? So they do need measurements. And in the past, before MovNat, there is a whole history, and the main influence on the creation of MovNat was Georges Hébert. He had a method himself called the natural method, even though I disagree that no method is ever natural.
Hmm.
Natural, it's the product of human design.
Yeah, it's a technology.
Otherwise, it's a process, it's a pattern, but it's not actually defined. So it's not an actual method. Anyways, so at his time, it was the emergence of highly specialized sports, competitive sports, sports for entertainment of the crowds, and he was a contemporary of the Baron de Coubertin, who
Hmm.
was in the Olympics, both Frenchmen. And they agreed on the idea of physicality was necessary. They just disagreed on that thing, on that element, which was Coubertin had no problem with sports and specialized sport. Georges Hébert did. And that was the rationale. Coubertin thought, okay, as long as at least you do one sport, one activity, you're okay, you're physical. Georges Hébert said, the problem is that you become a specialist. You can even become a specialist without a specialty. Let me explain. If you only run, you never lift, you never jump, you never climb, you never swim, you never do anything else, just run. You're a specialist. You're a natural movement. We're specialized on one natural movement ability. All sports are based on natural
For
movements, by
sure.
the way. Tennis, what do? You're running, and you're also using your arm, which is a throwing and a catching pattern. So the moment you hit the ball with the racket, you're both catching and throwing at the same time.
Yeah.
Move a device, but it's all natural movement. Just people don't see it; they forget. So natural movement is the foundation of all sports and any fitness protocol, any fitness program, and any traditional discipline of movement. Whatever you do movement-wise, it's possible because you have that foundation of natural movement, which is, again, a universal foundation. All right. So now you run, but you don't run marathons. You don't run ultra marathons. You don't run half marathons. You don't run even 5K. You don't even run with obstacle on your way that makes it that you need to mix running and jumping. All you do is sprint. So you're a specialist within the specialty. That's what a
Hmm.
sprint is, a specialized runner, and a runner is a specialized mover. And about nobody sees it that way for what it is.
I do. This is exactly what I wanted to talk with you about, because I think that MovNat is what most people should be doing most of the time. So that should be the core and something that people could do their entire lifespan. But what most people want to do is very specific variance. So this specialization, which takes away all of that variability, narrows the skill set, and there's attrition to those other attributes. And yet that's what most people want to do. So what I'm trying to better understand is how someone that's listening to this, that is a specialized athlete, perhaps at the Olympic level, that knows they have these deficiencies, or is perhaps considering how their athleticism may develop over time, how they could start to incorporate some variety into their training without diluting their specificity.
I see. I see. Okay, are you a sports coach?
Well, I have been, but most of my experience as an athlete.
Alrighty. Okay, so that's an important question. So number one, you realize that you're a specialist and sometimes a specialist within a specialization. That's a good start. Then how do you maybe not fix that, but say mitigate that? Because you realize that you have the bliss of mastery, high level in one very specific type of physical performance, but that you suck at all the rest. How do you know? Well, just because you go to the Olympics, if you're an Olympian, you hang out with all the other athletes and you know that they're super skilled like you are, just in a complete different way.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Is their mastery, each other's mastery, but also each other's complete ignorance and deficiencies in all the other fields of physical application. So the first, it's like something that everybody knows. Now, the question is, you say, how do you start doing something about it? Well, number one is desire. Mm-hmm. So you need to want to become more balanced and more complete. So in order to want it, what do you need?
Well, I think you need to be aware that there's a deficiency.
We have that one down already.
Yeah.
We're aware of it.
Sure.
We have a desire to fix those deficiencies. But before we talk about the how, the question is what creates the desire? And this is a very important point, because the how then becomes like almost evident, like you'll find a way, or MovNat will teach you the way. But what creates the desire? What creates the desire is the expectation of the outcome. What's the outcome? A balanced, more complete physical capability. That's the outcome that you want. So that's the expectation that you have. So that's the desire that you entertain. But why? Why is that? The answer is very simple. Because you value that outcome. And if you don't,
I think that's the issue, though, for a lot of athletes, because the thing they care about, and I can speak to this from personal experience, is that desire didn't exist because the only desire that did exist was to win an Olympic gold medal. And it was only on the other side of that when you start to notice these deficiencies and lack of balance, and then you're looking at the next 2/3 of your life.
No. So you see, this is why I'm pinpointing that exact point, which is how much do you value becoming what you're not, which is physically more complete, more balanced, broader range of movement skills and capacity. All right. How are you going to value it? Well, that could be just in your head being like, oh my God, this would be awesome if I could do this. Now, show me the how. Teach me how to do that. Another reason could be you get exposed to that opportunity to test yourself. So you're going to be in an environment, in a place, at an event, and be like, hey, can you do that? Can you balance there? Can you jump there? Can you hang there? And probably you're like kind of physical. You're like, sure, I can do it. Then you try, and then you're like, oh my God, It was way harder than I expected. Even some of that stuff, I could not even do it, even when I tried hard. And some of them I did not even want to try. I didn't even feel confident. I felt unsafe. Ooh, what does that say? So now this can ignite two things. It can ignite your desire to change that. Basically, you've seen the value in it and now you want it. You want to go after it. But you know what's also a typical response? And I've seen it so many times.
No.
It's people being exposed to those deficiencies, weaknesses, to those lacks, and thinking, okay, I'm going to forget about that. I don't even want to think about it anymore. Not it, but I'm going to leave it like that. Why? Two reasons. I don't value the outcome, so I don't want to put the effort in it. I don't want to train that too hard. And also why? Well, because I'm already so good at that thing. Like I'm a super runner. And now you ask me to become a beginner again. You remove the bliss of feeling so good and strong in my one specialty. I'm not going to enjoy that anymore, because what you're telling me is that I need to expose me to that weakness, that weakness, that weakness, that weakness, that weakness, that weakness, that weakness. And I don't want to. That's it. They don't want to challenge themselves. They do not value that completedness, or that breadth of physical capability. Or maybe they do, but you know what? They're like, you know what? I don't have the bandwidth. I don't want to do the effort. I feel too old. I feel too lazy, whatever it is. You talk yourself against it. And so then you never do it. So you won't grow. And that's it. So you have people who don't do any physical activity. They already think like that about any physical activity. Then people who have specialized physical activity, and they think like that about anything that's outside their scope. And their scope is like this because they're specialized. So that their scope is like this, not like that. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's not multidimensional. It's just very monodimensional. I'm a runner and I'm a specialized athlete who just runs, and I'm a specialized runner who only does sprints or who only does marathon. It doesn't matter if you open them to the possibilities, that untapped potential. But I don't care. I don't see that as a potential that they value. Therefore, there's no potential. Okay, so it's a lot about psychology. Now, my mindset is that I would never accept from myself to begin with to be inept in all those movements. I need to be able to climb and jump and run and do all of that, lift, carry, you name it, even hold my breath and dive, combatives, you name it. I don't need to be an expert in all of that because it's impossible. Generalist, you cannot become an expert unless you pick one expertise, but you're not going to be able to be expert at all these different. But you can have a baseline, and you can acquire that baseline and then maintain that baseline for the rest of your life for as long as you can. That's why is it that I do that? It's because in my value system, in my personal value system, it's completely unacceptable to not have that baseline and to not maintain that baseline. Personal level. At a social level of like society, collective level, it is completely acceptable. There's no consequence. There's no peer pressure. There's no shame. It's not even something to be talked about if you are completely lame physically. Lame, like the lamest. And if you are fit in a fitness way or fit in a very specialized way, like you do that sport, so you're fit for that sport, it's okay that like people are gonna be like, whoa, you're so fit and you are, but again, only within
a specific domain. So a bodybuilder, they can't do anything else, but within a bodybuilding community, everyone's going, well done.
It's not a debate. It's not a question. That nothing is at stake. So it falls completely under the radar of it, pretty much everybody. And MovNat has been there to challenge that, because in the MovNat value system, kind of philosophical value system, basically, the idea is that every individual would be equipped with that baseline of physical capability, all those movement skills, all those techniques, and then a baseline level of strength, power, endurance, you name it, physiological adaptations. So if every individual had that by education, by instinct, by education, by example, acquiring that in their childhood, in their teenage years, and then their adulthood, and maintaining that, that means that collectively we would have a physically competent and physically capable society. Can you imagine if that was to happen overnight? Can you imagine the change of vibe?
Yeah. I mean,
Energy.
it'd be awesome, and we'd be spending less on health and medicine.
Thank you.
Do you think that, because you've been doing this a long time, and it's all about people, so you have your position and your mindset in terms of your expectations for yourself, but you don't have to convince yourself at a certain point in time. You're trying to onboard others and provide them with sufficient guidance. Do you see your role as convincing people why they should care about this? Or do you think that it's only once they do care that you could then provide them with guidance as to what to do? Or is it both?
It's both, because I'm writing a note because sometimes I have insights that just come out of me, and I'm like, oh, that one, I never really said it that way. So I'm writing it down.
Cool.
So but MovNat can be trained different ways. You can train it in nature, barefoot, regardless of weather and all, almost naked. I'm exaggerating, not naked. Of course, I said almost, like shorts and go, and adapt. This is obviously a very pure version of MovNat that a very tiny fraction of modern people could do and want to do to begin with, let alone do it. The opposite of the spectrum would be a completely, say, indoors in a completely controlled environment where all the variables like the length, the depth, the height, all of that is designed to reproduce some of the demands from nature, from urban environments, in a controlled environment, so that you have safety and you have efficient progressions in level of difficulty. And then you measure stuff and all. And those are two extremes. In there, you can combine them. You can train both, or you can choose one. In the MovNat 2.0 version of this method, we're now creating MovNat Performance. And MovNat Performance is going to be that version, all indoors, all standardized equipment, standardized protocols, standardized benchmarks. So we treat it, instead of rejecting the idea of a sports or a competition, we're like, hey, how about it's like the sports of real world fitness? It's a sport where you take it like a sports activity where you have programs, protocols, methods, standards, benchmarks, goals, measurable goals. You can even track things. You can track BPM. You can track, heart rate. You can track stuff, anything you want. Make it a little more systematic, like systematic. with the goal eventually that, okay, once you're ready and you have a certain level, okay, you're ready to be plucked, not like plunked, forgive my French, plunked into nature and then reach the highest level of adaptation. But then you have a preparation. So that's where we are evolving towards. MovNat performance will be, it's still MovNat.
Yeah.
You have those standards in benchmarks, in protocols, in equipment, in levels of practice. And then, okay, I'm gonna give it away. We are preparing MovNat games. That's gonna be outdoors, and where we're going to reproduce, but in a way that we can have an audience and contestants. We're going to have rocks and mud and things that look like trees or ropes and obstacles and all of that, all natural. And we're gonna compete on the basis of like almost like pure MovNat.
Mm-hmm.
Without the standards. Standards are only for indoors, and regimented training. The games are gonna be okay. We're gonna getting back to being wild in wild environments or semi-wild environments, and it's a competition. It's also a spectacle.
Seems like
That's
there'd
the idea.
be almost limitless things that you could compete in because there's so many domains. And it does seem as though for someone that is thinking about doing MovNat, that although the emphasis is on breadth and the development of many skills, that a person could emphasize one more than others, ideally not to their detriment, but someone could focus more on balance or on strength or on breath holding, for example. It seems as though at a point in time, you went from MovNat focus to paying attention to free diving and breath holding, and then the very objective aspect of how long can you hold your breath for. Can you talk a little bit about how that began?
Ooh, it did not. Okay, I could say it began 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, but at the same time, it did not. I remember being a kid and swimming underwater already. So I remember trying to hold my breath as long as I could as a kid. Then I remember doing that as a young adult with my two older brothers. And I won, by the way. um, Doing that whenever I would be by a lake or by the ocean, like holding my breath, swimming, and doing all these things. At some point in my mid 30s, I got really into triathlon, short distance, medium distance, then long distance. So we're talking about the last season that I trained. It was 25 hours of training per week. So we're talking about a lot of cardio, okay, a lot of volume. And when I would train at the swimming pool with my club, I would often do 25 meters underwater, and sometimes I would do 50 meters underwater just for fun. And then when I would be back home, I would train breath holding, but I trained horribly.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like the challenge, and I badly wanted to reach 5 minutes, and all I could reach was 4 minutes, 40 or something. And I had no method at all. I had no understanding at all. Basically, I was just like those people who are today my students. I have thousands of them today. and they study how to do this the right way, the efficient way, and that involves, in fact, a lot of meditation,
Hmm.
not just pure will. So the way I was training back then was pure will, just suck it up and just beat your nose and become more red and push as hard as you can. Later on, 2020, I'm in Mexico. I live there, and spearfish. I love to spearfish. Holding your breath, swimming while breath, waiting while holding your breath at the fish gets closer. You're asking me the story, so I'm
Yeah,
telling you
no,
a story.
no, yeah. I want to know the genesis.
And I want to improve what's called my bottom time. It means how long I stay at the bottom. Why? Because statistically, the longer you can stay and the more still you are, the more chances fish comes to you and you get fish. Then you can even choose the fish you want. Um, so I start to walk while holding my breath on the beach, thinking that's going to help. So I would walk holding my breath, then I would just stay there standing and wait, imagining I was waiting for the fish to come. Then I would walk back, imagining I was getting back up. And the more I did that, the more I was like, wait a minute. Oh, figuring that out. I'm figuring that out. It started to be very inquisitive, like a quest of understanding. And then I realized, oh, physiological adaptation is important, but you know what? This is really a mental game. And I love that aspect of a mental game. So I started to go into strategies in my head, repeating some words, trying to play some cool music, relaxing in some ways, fractioning the sequence in a certain number of breath holds, start to re-delve into it. And then that was the beginning of my personal mastery. And I remember that one time where that mantra came to my mind and it said, find the master in you, find the master in you. And I would repeat that. And I was like, what's going on? While holding my breath. And then I realized, oh yeah, it's if there isn't someone in it that's in charge and shows up and says, this is the way you do it, it's not going to happen. I'm going to fall back into just willpower and try hard. There was an element of like mental, emotional, neurological, even spiritual fusion of all of that that I needed to figure out if I wanted to make progress, not just the physiological adaptation. So that conscious component became very important. And eventually I started to talk about it. People were interested. I started to share my thoughts, my feedbacks, my experiments, my measurements, how many breath holds I did, how long they were, including my SpO2, like it's like for oxygen level in the bloodstream. People who don't know, and to share that, and then I had all kinds of people interested in asking me questions about it. And ultimately, I felt ready. I had all the elements lined up to create a new method because that's what I do. I created a MovNat method, then I created the breathwork method, and I felt that I was ready to teach it. And basically, what I've been teaching since then, either in person or online, live, or now through my breathwork meditation masterclass. What I teach in there are all the elements, all the exercises, all the insights, all the protocols, everything that I've used for my own training and my own performance. It's no different. And it's a very, very unique, it's one of a kind of the program. I can't say it without hype. It's the best all around, hands down about it. It teaches you not only breathing power, it teaches you techniques for breath holding, and it teaches you, very importantly, meditation. It means techniques of the mind. You need techniques of the mind to go through everything that's going to happen in your mind and in your emotional self as you are enduring and experiencing the harshness of that stress. It's a neurophysiological stress. So it's harsh on the body, it's harsh on the nervous system, it's harsh on the mind. But what I teach is to make it, it's all good, make it more pleasant. I teach you how to basically, that's the tagline of the method, master your inner experience.
Do you
It's
think
a
that's
whole,
the benefit? Because if someone that doesn't have any experience with breath holding, they might be thinking, okay, that's cool and impressive, but where does that show up in the rest of my life? And I'd be curious as to hear what you believe the physiological benefits are. I'd say that physiological and psychological are the same thing, because psychology is just granular physiology, but it also seems as though this, mastery of oneself, particularly the inner experience, would have to be the reason for doing it, more than just holding your breath for another 60 seconds compared to some prior state.
So it's a very important question, good question. And in fact, to begin with, understand this. Ultimately, it's not about time. It's not about time performance. It's about your performance, means your improvement. Basically, I see it as personal growth, personal development. So you said, what are the physiological benefits? I'm going to tell you what they are, but then I can also tell you what are the neurological, psychological benefits of it. So physiologically, okay, think of it this way. We breathe 24/7 because oxygen is not optional. So oxygen implies oxygenation. Cells that are not oxygenated properly die. And if you're not oxygenated properly, you have no energy. If the brain is not properly oxygenated, you have no energy, you have brain fog, you have low performance, you have stress, you have health issues, your immune system go down, all a cascade of adverse health effects just because you don't oxygenate properly, okay? So everybody breathes. The amount of oxygen, the percentage of oxygen in the air is the same for everybody. So why is it that some people oxygenate optimally and others don't? There are reasons. So obviously, if you don't oxygenate your tissues well, you're not healthy.
Right.
You see the benefit? If you hold your breath, what are you doing? You are pausing and therefore diminishing your oxygen supply. How do you think your body's going to respond to that? It's going to reinforce every single mechanism and process, physical process in the body that strengthens oxygenation. You're going to extract more oxygen per inhale. So for instance, right now, maybe somebody extract only 10% of the oxygen that they get from one breath. If you train yourself to not breathe, you are going to reinforce, you're going to optimize every system that brings you more oxygen and more quickly. So for instance, per inhale, now you're going to extract 50% of the oxygen in that volume of air that you just inhaled. Can you imagine? So that means that basically you need to take less breaths to get the same amount of oxygen that you need. What does that mean? You breathe more slowly, your respiratory rate goes down. When you breathe fast, what does that say?
Well, your nervous system is heightened. Yeah.
Edgy, stressed out, in fear, anxiety, maybe in lack of health.
Cortisol.
result, maybe an infection, something like that. But when you breathe slowly, what does that mean? That means you're quiet, you're tranquil. Okay, so there's a correlation between your respiratory rate and the state of your nervous system. So the more you can lower your respiratory rate, the more you calm down your nervous system.
Yeah.
All right. And then it means that you're less stressed, you can see more clearly, you can better regulate yourself. Okay, so extract more oxygen from your breath. Breathe nasally consistently. That means that you're going to really filter the air, you're going to moisturize it, you're going to kill the germs, you're going to saturate it with nitric oxide. You're going to do a lot of good things through nasal breathing instead of mouth breathing. What else? Then that air goes in your lungs, then it goes in your bloodstreams. Your blood vessels are wider, they're stronger, they're more branchy, they go in like those little places. The bloodstream travels faster whenever needed because your epithelium is really flexible. So thanks to that, the conduit is so smooth that the pulsatile rhythm is guaranteed, whereas when your arteries, your veins, everything becomes stiff or narrow, your heart and your epithelium have to work much more to get the blood flow where it needs to go, and therefore the oxygen where it needs to go. So it lowers oxygenation. There's so many of these mechanisms. I could talk about the spleen.
Yeah.
I could bone marrow through the production of erythropoietin, the protein. So erythropoiesis in famous EPO.
Yep.
So you produce, what does that mean? You produce more red blood cells. Then the spleen better filters red blood cells, means takes out all the bad ones. What does that mean? Greater blood quantity, higher blood quality. Why? Why would you respond that way? Again, because you are strengthening your ability to oxygenate all of your tissues. That happens through physical exercise, but it happens even more specifically through breath holding. Okay, so I've not even covered everything about the physiological benefits, but if we were to boil that down to that one line, is increased or optimized cellular oxygenation.
Yeah. Are you surprised more endurance athletes don't engage in breath hold work?
Am I surprised?
Yeah.
No, I'm not more surprised than they don't engage or in breath holding practice than I'm surprised that they don't engage in the full scope of natural movement.
All of it. Yeah.
They just specialize and specialize. So some don't even look at their diet. Some even don't even look at how much nature time or sunlight or good sleep they get. They don't correlate. They don't connect the dots. You have to be able to connect the dots, or somebody connects them for you, tell you, hey, look, I'm going to pause you. I'm going to sit you down for a moment. Listen, if you do this, if you do that, your performance goes up, sports performance, physical performance, mental, brain performance, life performance in the sense of your health, therefore your quality of life increases. And then we're going to be like, nah, I don't really need that. Okay.
Yeah.
What can you do or say? That's a personal goal. But beyond the physiological adaptation, you have the neurological adaptations. I like to call that neural sovereignty. Means you train your nervous system to better regulate itself. But what or who trains that nervous system? The nervous system trains itself. Because what is your brain? It's part of a nervous system. What is your consciousness? It's an expression of a nervous system. So when you consciously say, hey, I'm going to do that, it's the nervous system that decides that it's going to train itself in a certain way. For what reason? To improve itself. So it's a natural drive of all living organisms to want to optimize themselves. That's when you have a healthy drive for life. If not, then some organisms self-destroy, self-harm, self-punish, or just let themselves decline and degrade over time, little by little every day, which is a form of self-neglect. And they're not optimizing anything. They're just doing the opposite by neglect, or by laziness, or by ignorance, or by choice. So the point is, it doesn't matter in the end what is your choice of practice. Every time you do something like take on a new sport, or you already do a sport, but then you start learning new techniques or train a different way. Why? Because like, if I do this, I'm going to expand my ability. Therefore, I'm going to expand my experience and my performance. And that's a natural drive. You want to be stronger. You want to be faster. You want to be more loose, more relaxed. You want to recover faster. You want to think more clear. You want to think better. You want to think more positively. You want to behave all around in a way that's more supporting of a good experience of who you are, basically. That's what it is about. That's the name of the game. What's your favorite modality? Is it gardening? Is it Tai Chi, Qigong? Is it playing some sports? Is it fishing? Is it meditation? Is it memory competition or practice? Is it, if you practice an instrument, your neurology, or if you learn one, you're neurologically challenged. So you're neurologically going to improve. And that's the goal. The goal is improvement. The goal is to achieve a better version of who you are. Now, in what way, through what method, for what reasons?
Yeah.
But trying, at least you're doing something in that direction, whereas it's an observation, not a judgment, but most people don't care. So through stagnation arises decline. Whereas through momentum and breaking inertia, basically through movement, through action, you rise. You go that way, not that way. Go that way, not that way.
This brings me into my final question that I have for you, is that everything we've talked about and the vast majority of your professional life, you are helping people on this upward trajectory, trying to provide them with methodology for them to become better. And there's no judgment in any of this. I follow you on Twitter, and I would say that there's a fair amount of the stuff that you share and retweet is critical of the way things are in the West currently, culturally. So stuff like things being super progressive, or the state of immigration into the West, and you provide some pushback on that. And I would agree with you for the most part. I am curious as to what your thoughts are as to the extent to which any of that, whether you get pushback or it ever distracts from your broader mission, which is this process of helping people be better.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you that. And could you please reiterate your question? And the reason is I want to make 100% sure that I understood exactly your question before I start answering. And I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. You have some criticisms of certain elements of the way society is at the moment, the way that it has been trending. in the West the last few years. Is that correct?
I also praise Western society in many ways. I also like to look at what potentially could be improved. So it's not necessarily a judgment or criticizing. It's more a critique. You understand?
Sure.
Critique is just a statement of what I observe. Then criticizing, hey, this is unacceptable. What a shame! This must change. All that. I try to not do that, but at the same time, I like to offer a firm critique of what I see. Is like, look, this is a problem. Could this be fixed? Could this be at least improved?
So for you, it's not really separate from the rest of what you're doing because you're trying to contribute your thoughts in a way that may help things to improve.
Of course, because ultimately it becomes societal. Ultimately, it has to do with mankind as a whole. We can look at individual behavior and agenda, and then we can look at how it fits into the collective. The collective of a city, the collective of a country, the collective of a continent, the collective of a collective like mankind is collective. So I have my aspirations, I have my set of values, and I have my propositions as what could be done for individual benefit and collective benefit. So when my proposition is learn to become physically capable, my solution to that proposition is, okay, I've got the method for you. It's called MovNat. When I talk about, okay, a lot of people are confused, overthinking, negative, never relaxed. All right, that's the diagnostic. What's the medicine? What's the antidote? How about this method? Train breath work. It's a special form of practice with a meditation in it. It's going to benefit you individually. It's going to make you more calm, better regulated in your mind and your emotional self. Basically, you are going to train your consciousness and your own neural state like you train a skill. You train basically yourself, in consciousness and in emotionality like you train a skill. Don't you think that matters? Because we have that crisis of mental health worldwide. So I'm not just saying, oh, look at that. People are angry or confused, anxious, negative, depressed, all of that. And it's just a statement. It's beyond a critique. It's criticizing, but no solution. So I like to be proactive. I like to be proactive and be, you know what? My solution is this here. Here's the method. It works for me. It's going to work for you. It works for a lot of people. Today, it works for thousands of people who are students of breathwork. So how does that fit in the collective? Well, it's a method that a lot of individuals are choosing to implement in their life, part of their lifestyle, that it is MovNat or breathwork or both. It benefits them individually. The more people do that, we can reach a critical mass where at some point it creates a paradigm shift in mankind. It sounds utopian or like a dream, but how about pursuing dreams, pursuing happiness for oneself and others? Why not? Why do I have to lose? Nothing. So I'm happy to do it. It benefits me, benefits my community, benefits my family, benefits maybe my country. It benefits other fellow humans, whoever they are, religion, gender, ethnicity, age, all that, wealth, doesn't matter. You're a fellow human, you can benefit from natural movement, MovNat, the MovNat way. You're a fellow human, you can benefit from neural regulation, the breathwork way. Here are the methods for you, for the world. Enjoy. See if it works for you. It works for everybody, but can you make it work for you? It's on you. So does that make sense? How
it does make sense, actually, because, and I'm asking with a personal interest, because I put stuff out into the ether as well. This conversation is something I will share in order to expand the perspective of others. And I have opinions on things more broadly that I'm somewhat reluctant to share, because I don't want to distract from the mission. And the way that you've indicated that it is about helping and allowing people to be better, just that the scale is different, that actually makes perfect sense and helps resolve that in my own mind. So I appreciate it. We're at the end here. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity just to let people know where they can find you, where they can find MovNat, and your guidance on breath holding.
Yes, we have two websites. The first one, the one about natural movement, real world fitness, is called MovNat. We say MovNat, but it spells MovNat, MovNat.com, MovNat.com. That's MovNat.com. For breath hold work, that's the way you say it, breath hold work, one word.com, breathholdwork.com. That implies breath work, breath holding, and meditation all at once, or within one method of practice. And so we have the breathful work meditation masterclass, but don't be mistaken. It's not at all just about meditation. It's really, you learn power breathing, efficient breathing, breath control. You learn breath holding techniques, and you learn meditation. It's 4 modules, 100 videos. It's extremely complete, and it's extremely potent. And we've seen people triple, quadruple, multiply by 5 the original breath hold time before instruction, after practice. What else also changes very quickly is your respiratory rate. So a lot of people start at like 12, 15, sometimes 20. It means 20 breath cycles in 1 minute. That's before instruction. Then they get down to 10, 8, 6, without trying to control their breathing. Means that just count. Just
the natural respiration.
Don't override. Don't take control. So basically, that means that they're reflexive, but their by default respiratory rate has decreased. Means they spend less effort, less energy with those breaths. And we take thousands a day, but if you take 6 breath cycles less per minute, 60 minutes in a day.
Yeah, it's going to add up.
Thousands of breaths in 1 day, millions of breaths in 1 year, dozens of millions of breaths in a few decades. That's a lot of effort that you don't need anymore. So it is less taxing on your body, and you are actually oxygenating better. I explain all of that in my e-course, because you also have the insights, the explanation from a scientific standpoint. And then your nervous system is also naturally calmer, because what is it that you do when you're anxious? You try to breathe slower. Well, if you breathe slower by default,
Yeah,
you'll need to calm down because you're already calm.
Yeah.
And steady fashion. That's the beauty of it. All right. So I think that, of course, I could talk forever about it all, but we've covered a lot together, Sam, today, don't you think?
We have, and I feel like you have created these platforms that if people want to dive deeper, then they can go ahead and do that. And I think I'm a prime candidate for breath hold work. That's something I'm seeking to improve for all of the reasons that you've outlined. I really appreciate your time and insights today, Erwan. And we'll look out for your work. And I hope people take the time to invest in themselves and take a look at the things that you do.
Thank you very much, Sam. I really appreciate your invite today, and I really enjoyed that convo together.
Great.